It is BTN Live. Dave Revson alongside Jerry DiNardo and Howard Griffith. Nebraska Athletic Director Tom Osborne making a big decision, big announcement yesterday, saying that he will retire effective at the end of the calendar year. We are very pleased to be joined now by Coach Osborne from Lincoln. And Coach, what was the biggest factor for you that prompted you to make this decision?
Well, I think that there's always a time when your effectiveness as a leader begins to diminish. And I didn't want to be one of those people that you had to be shown the door. That intellectually you were somewhat of a liability, your health was an issue. And so I think it's always important to leave before somebody has to ask you to do so. And I'd really probably done most of the things here that I thought were important. When I first came here, there were some issues with culture, maybe some lack of trust. I think the fan base was split. And so probably the first year I spent a lot of time just working on trying to get former players back, get the fans united, get things settled down in the athletic department. And then we began to launch into facilities, build a student life center which served all of our sports and academics. We're expanding the stadium, and we're also doing some renovation over in Devaney for our volleyball team. We're building a new arena downtown. We built an indoor practice facility for baseball and softball. And so all of those things are ongoing, and they're at a stage now where I know they're going to be completed. It isn't a deal where if I go away, all of a sudden that's going to stop. So I thought things were pretty much where they needed to be. And then the last task I think that someone in my position has to do is to try to make sure there's a smooth transition, that the line of succession is clearly drawn, and you have somebody in that can probably do a better job than you did in taking over. So I guess that's my next objective is to try to help the chancellor make for a smooth transition.
Coach, while you were athletic director, coaches would come to you, all coaches, not just football coaches, but coaches would come to you to seek your counsel. What were some of the topics and what were some of those conversations like? What did they want to learn from your experiences?
Well, I wouldn't say that people were just knocking down the door, Jerry, to talk to me, but I occasionally would have conversations with a lot of our coaches, whether it be coaches of Olympic sports, female sports, men's sports, football, and so it really varied, but mostly it had to revolve around personalities and how to handle certain kids, how to handle certain situations. And I'm not the wisest guy in the world, so I didn't always have a tremendous answer for them, but I could sometimes draw on experience and how some of my decisions in the past had either worked out well or had not worked out. I could relate that to them and maybe give them a little bit broader base of knowledge as to how to approach it. So as you know, Jerry, fewer and fewer athletic directors have come from a purely athletic background. Maybe were former coaches, former players. A lot of them have come through business administration schools, their MBAs, a lot of numbers, a lot of finances. And so I think the coaches particularly appreciated the fact that I was able to relate to them in terms of having been a coach. And having said that, I'm probably not the most qualified guy to draw up a budget, but I found very quickly that I could learn those things, and it wasn't necessarily rocket science.
Coach, let's go on the field a little bit, and I wanted your perspective of this. Has the game of football really changed since you've been there?
Well, I think that some things have. I talked to Urban Meyer a year ago, and I told him, I said, Urban, the zone read was really very innovative, and I wish I would have thought of that. I really loved option football, and we worked very hard at it, and we liked play action passes off of the option. Sometimes people got away from basic running games and got into spread offense and the short passes and all that, but I still think you have to be able to run the ball. And I think it's important at times to have a tight end and a fullback in there. And Alabama has shown that. They're not putting up the tremendous yardage totals. They probably average 420, 440 a game, but they don't turn it over. They can run the ball, and they're going to take time off the clock. They're going to keep their defense off the field. And then, of course, they have great defenses, and they work at the kicking game. And I think if you can do those things, you can run the ball, you can throw well enough that you can get yourself out of trouble on occasion. You don't turn the ball over, and you play good defense, and you have a good kicking game. As Jerry can tell you, as anybody can tell you, those things still prevail in football. And sometimes we get lost in the detail, and sometimes we get into gadgets and gimmicks and forget about those basics.
BTN Live on BTN as well as on our radio affiliates as we continue our conversation with Tom Osborne.
Coach, you mentioned that you're one of the few athletic directors that has coaching experience, and I preface my question with that. Tell us about Bo's greatest strengths as a coach.
Well, Bo's very knowledgeable football coach. He's a smart guy. And, of course, most of his experience, most of his background has been on defense. And when I hired Bo, we were, I think, 112th in the nation in total defense the year before. And that was the area that really needed to be shored up. And Bo came in here, and within a very short time, we were a top 10 defense. And that really turned us around. Bo has passion. He cares about the game. And he also seems to relate really well to the players. The players like to play for him. They're very loyal to him. And I think that's probably the ultimate test of a coach, is how the players respond to that coach. I think they feel that he does care about them. And I think I've certainly seen Bo maturing over the last 4 or 5 years. And, when you've been an assistant all of your life and all of a sudden you're the head guy, it's a little bit of a different ball game. And I think he's adjusted quite well. So those are the things I see about Bo that I think are very positive. And we think we're on a pretty good trajectory here. It looks like the Big Ten is very wide open right now. Probably any one of 5 or 6 teams that could end up being the champion. We hope that we're one of them, and we'll see how it all plays out.
Coach, you've obviously had success on the field, obviously in political life as well, and also at the university. When you look at having a successful athletic department, as you talked about, trying to help that transition, what are some of the key things that you have to do as the head of a department to make sure that the program runs smoothly?
Well, everybody's going to have a different answer, different orientation. We've always tried to be very student-athlete centered. And I think whether you go back to Bob Devaney, when I was here, Steve Peterson, there has been a focus on the student-athlete. And so we don't want to ever have a student-athlete feel that they're abused, mistreated, treated as an object. We want the first-team player and the fourth-team player to all feel that they're important as a person. We care about their education. We care about their health. We care about their nutrition. And so I think our ancillary support services here are very good. We think that the overwhelming number of student athletes coming out of here feel that they have been valued as people and that they've grown as people. And ultimately, that's the main purpose of an athletic department. Many people don't realize it. They don't think of it that way. And of course, along the way, you want to be good and efficient and in your pursuit of excellence on the field. And so we think it's important to be competitive. We want to have good facilities here. We're doing a lot to upgrade and improve our facilities right now. And I think they will be among the better facilities in the country, particularly within the next year.
And Coach, you mentioned the student athlete, and as a former walk-on, I can remember growing up and seeing that Sports Illustrated cover with your Nebraska team covering the entire field. Could you talk to me a little bit about the importance and what you felt the importance were to walk-ons to your program and to your success?
Well, in many ways, the walk-ons were the key to whatever we accomplished here. because eventually they began to permeate the culture. A walk-on, almost by definition, is someone who is an overachiever, somebody who's willing to take a great risk to come to your program, almost by definition has a great work ethic, almost always has great character. And I think it was said best by Doug Coleman, who was one of our better linebackers here a few years ago. Doug was a fairly high-profile player from New Jersey, heavily recruited. And he said, you know, the reason he came to Nebraska was he wanted to get into the NFL. He thought that Nebraska was a high-profile school, would help him get there. But a strange thing happened along the way. While he was here, he began to see how many walk-on players we had who worked so hard, who sacrificed so much, maybe just to earn a letter at the end of 4 years, maybe never play more than a handful of downs, maybe never even take a road trip. And he said seeing those guys and what they did and how much they sacrificed really gave him a new appreciation for what teamwork was, what a good attitude was, what made things tick. And of course those walk-on players gave us great depth. We very seldom had an injury where we didn't have somebody that could go in there, may not be a superstar, but could go in there and be well prepared and play well. And of course also, out of our 22 starters, most every year we would have 5, 6, 7 kids who came here as walk-ons. So in a sparsely populated state of 1.8 million people, we did have that advantage because we had no other major college football program in the state. We had a lot of players because they were successful here as walk-ons. We had a lot of players who would turn down a small college scholarship to come here, and an amazing number of them played for us. So they were really, in many ways, the backbone of our program.
Coach, you are so involved with the program. You're almost always at practice when we go there, and I understand part of that is that it's your job right now, but I know part of that is your passion for the place as well. What's your sense as to what your level of involvement is going to be going forward after you are officially retired?
Well, I've got an agreement with the chancellor where I will stay around for about 6 months. And the reason I want to do that is that we will complete our East Stadium development, the Devaney development, the new basketball arena this next summer. And so I'd like to be there as a resource in case questions come up about construction. Want to help the new athletic director have a smooth transition. Now that new AD may want to spend 30 minutes with me and then never see me again, and I can handle that. You know, I know how to disappear. But on the other hand, if he wants to, from time to time, ask a question or find out what agreement was made with this particular business or agency, because there's always things that when you come into a new place, it probably is helpful to know. And so I'll help in any way that I can with the adjustment. I meet with a lot of recruits on the campus when they come through, actually from all sports. And as long as I'm officially an employee of the athletic department, when they come here on an official or unofficial visit, I can do that. So if coaches want me to serve as a resource in this manner, I will be able to continue to do that. So that's primarily what my role will be. We're building a new research area over in the East Stadium. It's going to be somewhat unique. We have 2 large MRI machines going in there. So we're doing a lot of leadership stuff in terms of concussion research. We also will have an athletic research area, 20,000 square feet. We're going to look at athletic equipment. We're going to look at nutrition. We're going to look at cardiology. We're going to have to do with psychology of sport. And we think this will be something that will be very valuable in terms of producing research and knowledge that can advance the cause of athletics around the country.
Tom Osborne, Hall of Fame football coach and outgoing athletic director at Nebraska. Coach, thanks a lot for your time and best of luck here going down the road. I'm sure we'll see you, though, before you leave Lincoln. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me on.